hello there. I was contacted distressingly by a few Australians recently. I knew it was coming, but when it actually hits, you're still quite surprised. By the way, I'm reviewing this neat little thing. You gotta hook up the cables. Isn't that neat? It's completely waterproof. It's a charge controller, handle up to 340 watts of solar panel power. That is really quite fascinating. I'm not trying to push this product at all. I mean, I haven't tested it out, but the fact that it's totally waterproof and it'll handle 340, that's just really quite fascinating. I'm big into solar power, not because I'm green at all, but it's about being independent of the GOVT and other entities. I think I had a lot of points because there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of indicators that I knew were coming, and people that have been peering out at the horizon knew were coming. And there's a lot of those to actually address in this video. So I'd like to actually hit them as I can. And once again, I read every comment. If you ever want to contact me, my information is in the description below. Australians will get a national digital identity law here within just a few weeks, and there's a long list of what this means for you. I went over some of the things, and of course the government's actually promoting as well, this is good for you, this is going to protect your identity against fraud, and on and on. They always do that. Ignorant and unintelligent people actually fall for that. Of course, it's certainly a trap. The Australian government's passed legislation for a national digital ID. So it is confirmed, it's coming, and it's definitely coming to Canada. And if you're in Europe or the United States, if you think it's not coming to you, I think you might be, have your head in a dark hole somewhere, unfortunately. That's quite distressing. And it's kind of the old saying when I was growing up that what starts in California works its way east, but in these crown-controlled countries, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the hydra that controls basically all of Europe. Thankfully, they don't control Poland, at least not yet. There's a couple of free countries left in Europe, thankfully, but I don't know for how long. I want to make this point for actually getting onto the main points here, and because it's so incredibly important, I'd take any cue from you if you actually have any. I've, been actually furrowing my brow in deep thought. I don't have actually any expendable income, but I'm trying to work out what little I do have, and I basically sold everything that's not glued down and bought land and other things that I know really well. But I have to figure out what percentage, and that's something for you too. I don't have a wife and kids. You probably have a wife and kids and a mortgage or who knows what. Everybody's situation is different. What percentage of what very little I have, and I do mean very little, that I'm able to diversify into hard assets because the, money is not getting it done. I literally talk to strangers here in town and on the phone. And, some people find that shocking that I'm asking them questions. They're not personal questions, but I get answers basically from everybody. And everybody knows that that's coming down the pike except for a couple of really unintelligent people that are completely clueless. The hard assets and what percentage to put into those hard assets to weather this evil storm, and it's really an evil storm or a perfect storm, take your pick of what's coming, and it is coming. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. Things that a lot of people don't think of, like tools, solar panels, charge controllers, wiring, nails, silver. What little I had that I was able to put into silver back when it was $17 an ounce, I actually did. That wasn't much, but it's what I could do, and we all can only do what we can do. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. Banks right now are failing at an exponential rate. Republic Bank of Philadelphia, for example, just like a week and a half ago, has completely failed. And as I said, regarding cash, before it becomes paper, which it already is paper, it's only held up by trust. There's going to be a run on cash at banks. There's an old saying that's absolutely true. If your money is in the bank, it's not really your money. I don't really have any money, but what little I have, I certainly am not entrusting to the bank other than what I need to be there for the case of monthly bills and groceries and whatnot. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that as well. This may or may not be true, but there's a lot of rumors that the DNC is planning on canceling the convention in Chicago because they know, and you know if you've had two eyeballs, as to what would happen as far as their image and the melee, vis-a-vis the stuff that's been going on with these irrational, emotional people at these college campuses recently here in the United States. Canada is going to retroactively, that's the neat part about it, to imprison anybody who's ever posted naughty speech. I'm going to call it naughty speech. Naughty speech online. One news outlet reports the real shocker of this bill is the alarming retroactive aspect. Essentially, whatever you said in the past can now be militarized against you in a very, very horrific draconian standard, and this is going on in Canada. I don't know of a single Canadian, I'm sure there are plenty, most of them probably located in Quebec, that actually support the horrific tyranny that's going on in Canada. But all of this is going on by design. There are many vectors that are approaching many countries, and apparently they're hitting the crown countries first. But the Netherlands, Denmark, Belgium, Deutschland, Japan. Did you know that Japan is like teetering on collapse? The United States has promised to prop them up as long as they don't dump U.S. dollars. The BRICS, of course, right now are going to have commodity-based currency, and they're trying to collapse the dollar, and some of the few holdouts are trying to ditch the dollar, but the United States is not, wagging a finger at them, but they're basically saying, we'll prop up your collapsing economy if you don't ditch the U.S. dollar and collapse our economy. That's a Ponzi scheme if ever there was a Ponzi scheme, and this is actually going on right now. That's not my opinion or feeling or belief. That's actually happening right now. And that's why I'm asking the question and asking myself the question once again. What very little I have, I need to know where to put it and what percentage of what little I have to put it into those things. And I'm making really hard choices right now. But I've been doing that for years. Like I said, I sold everything not glued down. People right now are defaulting on their mortgages. They've been defaulting left and right on their credit cards. The scales are completely through the roof. It's a really scary time. And I keep getting letters, and I know you people do too. My house is paid for, thank goodness. And this is another probably BlackRock entity. This is called Truehold. I got this in the mail today. I get like 2 or 3 of these a week. Dear Kenneth, stay in your home that you love with the finances you've earned. Imagine living debt-free. Well, if you take money out of your house, you're doing the opposite of being debt-free. So that's a hardcore lie right there. In the home you love, no mortgage, no equity loans, complete financial freedom. Well, if you take money out of your house, you're doing the opposite of financial freedom. So that's another hardcore lie. With Truehold, this dream is possible. A residential sale leaseback. You know what a sale leaseback is? That's a fancy way of saying, we'll give you some money for your home and you can stay there and you can just be our peasant and, pay us a monthly fee. You won't own the house anymore, but, we'll give you a big lump of cash, which, of course, is becoming increasingly worthless as every day passes. Yeah, we're going to give you this worthless cash, which, you can barely buy groceries with, in case you're... You can't live in a bill. Like, say, if you get a monthly bill, you can't live in a bill. I don't know if you know that or not. You can't live in a bill. Oh, I got a big wad of cash for my house, and, all I have to do is just pay them this extortionist rate, which goes up and up and up, probably 2 or 3 times a year. And then, well, due to inflation, we're going to raise your monthly fee on your house rental, which you used to own, but we gave you a wad of worthless cash for it, which we got from the Fed, which spontaneously prints that money. A quick phone call is all you need, Kenneth, to get your free, no obligation cash offer for your home. Our team is licensed agents ready to answer all your questions, blah, 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 blah. We are scammers. We hope you're stupid enough to believe what we've said in this nonsense. It doesn't actually say that, but it's what it should say. Your partners in home equity, the Lexington Truehold team. Not ready to sell? No problem. The offer is always available. Let me translate that for you. Are you broke yet? Are you broke yet? Are you broke yet? Are you broke yet? Let us know when you're broke and we'll give you some money, which is worthless due to inflation and a million other factors. We'll give you some money for your home. Yeah. And then after we give you that money for your home, what you could do is slowly trickle it right back to us. So, you see, here's how it works. This is quite brilliant. We'll give you a wad of worthless cash for your home. You won't own your home anymore, but you'll have a wad of worthless cash. And then you could take that money that we gave you and you could trickle it back to us every month. So, in the end, you'll have nothing and we will own your home. We'll kiss it where the sun don't shine. Kiss it in that dark place. Kiss it. Kiss it. That's happening to everybody across the United States. It's happening in other countries. People have told me that. You have told me that because I do read every comment. Yeah, they can kiss it. That's what they want. Are you broke yet? Are you broke yet? We'll give you water worthless. Now, I could care less about Red Lobster. I despise seafood. That's not the point. I'm going to talk about Red Lobster and Starbucks. I don't care. Yes, Starbucks is garbage. It's nasty swill. It's burnt coffee. That's not what I'm talking about here, so please don't get off on that topic. Red Lobster is abruptly closing 48 restaurants. They say they're about to announce a bankruptcy. Starbucks is hardcore collapsing. This is a bellwether, okay? It has nothing to do with Starbucks and Red Lobster. I don't eat ocean cockroaches, which is what Red Lobster sells, and I don't buy overpriced burnt coffee from smug pseudo-intellectual baristas with purple hair. I do not. You know I don't. It's not about Red Lobster or Starbucks. Anyway, Starbucks is collapsing. Consumers are breaking. This is really a bellwether. If you actually go down on year-over-year profits as opposed relative to last year, negative 3% nominal adjusted for inflation, down 7%. McDonald's down. KFC, way down. Taco Bell, way down. Pizza Hut, way down. Wendy's way down. The discretionary income that brings a little bit of spice of happiness to everybody's life, and not me. I don't eat that garbage. I don't eat any of it. KFC, by the way, nobody in Kentucky eats KFC. Nobody. It's garbage. The discretionary spending that people, I'm going to pick me up a burrito at Chipotle, which I've never eaten at that nasty place, and I never will. They're all down. These are bellwethers. Every indicator says the same thing, except the bellwethers are increasing and they're becoming more and more and more obvious. People like, no, I'm going to do it. I'm just you're going to take a vacation? No, I'm going to sit in my backyard hammock and drink some Kool-Aid. People aren't spending any of the money. All of these things are collapsing. Things are going to go slow, which they have been doing for the past few years, and then they're going to speed up. That's exactly what's going to happen, and I'm telling you that's what's going to happen, and I'm 100% right about that. That's exactly what's going to happen. A lot of fools keep saying, well, the market, I've heard this many times from many people, the market is continuing to rise. Things can't be going bad because look at the S&P 500. Look at the market. Bully. It's all about to crash. All of this is a bubble. They keep pumping money, spontaneously printed money. They keep pumping money into it. Every indicator says the same thing. And yet some of these myopic pseudo-intellectuals keep saying the same. Oh, the S&P 500, look at that. The market keeps going like gangbusters. It can't be that bad. Look at the market. S&P 500, it's gone up 80% in the past year and a half, something like that. I think it's a year and a half or a year. It's not. This happened a few months ago, but there's evidences from Buffett and all these people are selling off major blocks of stock. The Walton family just sold off $1.5 billion dollars of Walmart stock. I know that was a few months ago, but there's a lot of other big players that are just selling off huge blocks. What's his face that used to own a serious chunk of Apple? He ditched all of his Apple stock. The big whales are selling off stocks, and not meager stocks. They're selling off major chunks of stock. So I'll let you draw the conclusions on that. I'm not going to make a spurious, conjecture and pontification upon the answer to that, which I don't know, but it basically tells you what you need to know. The rats are leaving the sinking ship. I say when a big ship is sinking, the first people to know are the rats. They have an intuitive grasp of what's happening, and they start to see the rats fleeing. Like, oh my God, the ship is sinking. How do you know? Everything's, well, look at the rats. They're all fleeing. Ukraine, it's gotten actually so bad in Volkrenia. Yeah. Slava Ukraina. That's some Ukrainian, by the way. I bet you didn't know I knew Ukrainian, but I do know Ukrainian. Молодец, Ты меня понял? Ясно как смертный грек. Ukraine is discussing moving the country's capital from Kiev to Lvov. Quote is, almost all hope is lost now. A rootin' tootin' Putin, as I like to call him, is too committed. And I told you a million times that rootin' tootin' does not have a reverse gear. He does not. In the past 2 days alone, an additional 30,000 Ruske soldati, in English that would be Russian soldiers, have taken over dozens of towns and villages. Even the American media outlet The Hill, which is not known to be liberal, writes, further efforts to defeat the Ruske Armia, the Russian military, are hopeless. Russian forces have a significant advantage. The position of the Ukrainian forces is rapidly deteriorating. Ukraine will never win this and recapture the lost territories. It's all they've already got Blinken over there right now. I can only imagine what he's having a discussion with the big fat cat's Volkrenia. He just flew over there now because everything's collapsing. It's going to end soon. I told you, Rootin' Tootin' did not have a reverse gear. He did not. He will throw everything, including the kitchen sink, in to make it happen. I told you that from day one, and of course I was right. The only thing I did get wrong is how quickly it would take for Ukraine to collapse. I had no idea that Western military might would throw so much hardcore hardware behind the conflict, but there's a reason for that too, and I should have anticipated it. I hate to say this, and I couldn't care less about El Politico. I could not care less. I do. I keep my eyes peeled, but that doesn't mean I care about it, and I'll stick my head into it either. But I do watch it. Kind of like children. They should be seen but not heard. There's a perfect storm coming, and the date, well, the end date is old November the 4th. I don't care what you think about the old dude or the orange dude that looks like Cheetos dust. I don't care. I don't care which side you're on. Yeah, I'm on the side of common sense, logic, and wisdom. I don't care, but here's the fact. Anybody, and like half the country is holding out hope for something that's completely impossible. Hydra and the entities thereof that are pushing the global economy and the reset off of the cliff, which is exactly what's going on. They will never, ever let the dude covered in Cheetos dust. I kind of say that humorously because I've heard it before and it's kind of funny. They will never, ever let the guy covered in Cheetos dust come back to Washington again. If you're holding out hope for that, I don't care what you do or don't do or, who you pull the lever for on November. I don't care. It's none of my business. Yeah? I'm a person that loves freedom and I care about logic and rationality and intelligence. But they're not going to let the Cheetos dust guy, I say that humorously, okay? You think I'm against him. I'm not. I'm really not for anybody. I'm for freedom and simplicity and low taxes and groceries that don't cost $1 bazillion. I am for that. But they're not going to let that guy, half the country is suffering. We're going to take care of it. We're going to put him back in November the 4th. Yeah. We took our jobs. It's not funny, actually. It's not going to happen. A bunch of people are talking about this, and it's happening in the United States as well. Italy, right now, they say there was like 0 births in Italy the past number of months. That's not true, but the fact is in Italy, this is the country known for having big families. There are 12 deaths for every 7 births. Yeah, 12 deaths for every 7 births. I think you should work out the math. Right now, and I scroll through Instagram looking for, funny stuff and interesting feed of news. It doesn't make it anywhere else. And I've noticed it all around me, and my eyes are peeled and my head is on a swivel. I notice a lot of stuff all at once and very quickly process that. There's an enormous amount of brainwashing that's going on right now in the United States and in Europe and Canada, and it's there to serve a purpose. And it's preaching that children are the biggest destroyers of life, and like the worst thing you could do is have a kid. And, like committed, mutually loving relationships are like the most evil thing ever. It's like, it's a good thing these people's parents didn't think that way, or they never would have been born. There is the biggest push that anybody's seen in any continent or any country, basically forever, that just preaches, and of course life is quasi-miserable, but it's nowhere near as miserable as your grandparents or your great-grandparents, depending how old you are, where they had serious issues during the Great Depression. Just pushing this idea is like the worst thing you could do is to have children, and marriage is evil, and all of this is so evil. And it has a purpose, and it's being pushed, and that's not my opinion, it's undeniable. Every corner I see it. I know couples, that I interact with, and it's like, oh, you plan on ever having, any kids? And they're like, oh, it's like, you ask them if they ever, lick the toilet bowl or something like that. It's, oh, God, have children? No way! I know they have a word for it, DINK, dual income, no kids. There's this idea that, box wine and 3 or 4 cats are going to make you happy. And whatever anybody does is none of my business, but I've seen 10,000 posts, not that I'm looking for them as I'm scrolling through Instagram, 10,000 posts. People that think box wine and vacations and kitty cats are going to make, their life awesome as they get older. And everyone's saying this is 20s or 30s. You don't hear anybody in their 40s or 50s saying that. You know why? Because that's when people wise up and they're like, oh, God. It's just, it's really awful. Now, I have failed on that front. My wife died of a giant brain tumor. I was married. I didn't have it wasn't a real marriage because it was absolutely nothing but 100% misery and pain for me and way worse for my wife. But I have failed on that. I don't have a life partner. I don't have any kids. So I acknowledge my failure on that. But it was not by choice. It just happened that it worked out that way. Very, 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 very unfortunately for me. On that front, I have failed. I failed big time. But other people are embracing this. And I've got news for you, girlfriend. When you reach 40 or 50, I'm sorry, unless you are extremely good at deluding yourself, the box wine and the kitty cats, or the male version of that, whatever it is, collecting postage stamps or who knows what, collecting fancy cars, or it's not going to cut it. It's just not, that's not a desirable life. I'm sure you think that's true in your 20s and 30s, but you're going to find out, you're in for a rude awakening. The guys and the girls, you really are in for a rude awakening. Hydra, I kind of ranted on that a little bit too much maybe, but I was very adamant in talking about it. Right now, the WEF and Hydra are pushing, oh, bird flu lockdowns, oh, bird flu, warning, warning, warning. Here's a question. You remember the Baltimore bridge collapse? And why is the FBI still handling that collapse? And why is, after basically 2 months, the crew still confined to the ship, and they still have possession of every crew member's phone? They're still confined to the ship 2 months later, essentially. And that's a question I have for you on that one. Oh, and why are the last 2 minutes, the only important minutes of that crash, missing from the version of the black box from that cargo ship? Missing, gone, kaput, or were they erased? I don't know the answer to that. I'm asking you that question. Japan, once again, wants to dump the dollars. The U.S. has promised to support Japan in exchange for not ditching their dollars. I don't know if you know what's going on in Japan. Some people are moving there because their population is falling off a cliff. There's no replacements, and you can get a house there for basically nothing, and everybody's dying. And there's nobody to take over those houses, so there's all this cheap housing in Japan. Not that I would want to live there. I'd love to visit Japan, but right now we are genuinely, undeniably at the cusp of an avalanche of the intersection of multiple forms of terrible. And if you think that's fear-mongering, I don't fear-monger anything. I don't pull that game. I'm not interested in that. I can't stand it. I don't like it. I don't like when other people do it, but we are at the intersection of multiple terribles. By the way, the consulting firm Klaus Group analyzed several thousand banks and found hundreds and hundreds of them face dual threats of both commercial real estate loans and potential losses tied to higher interest rates. The majority of these banks are smaller lenders with less than $10 billion in assets. Yeah, but the point being there's a lot of these bank chains that are about to collapse due to this. And it's like playing musical chairs. You don't want to be there when the music ends, and meaning having money in the bank. Like, well, you're FDIC insured. If you actually read the fine details on FDIC insurance, it will actually scare you. A rich buddy of mine told me the fine details of that FDIC. I'm okay, it's FDIC insured bank. They can actually dribble it out to you, little bit. You'd be like long dead before they even come close to paying back what you lost. Growing up in the 70s like I did in the 80s, people were appreciative of basic food, shelter, and transportation. People these days, unfortunately, are concerned about their lifestyle choices, which equals nothing in the grand scheme of life right now. Society is very, 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 very sick. And if you think it isn't, then you've had your head lodged in a very, very dark place. And that's just hardcore undeniable. I'm sorry if you think that. People right now are getting super, super sick, including myself, struggling to buy groceries. They're borrowing on their house. They're borrowing on their 401k. Maxing out their credit cards. You know it. I know it. I don't have any credit cards, by the way. There's an old saying that said, when all else fails, they take you to WAR. I'm telling you right now, and I don't want this to sound like any form of fear-mongering, but every indication says that all of us, in whatever way, shape, or form we could do it, we should brace for the W and the A and the R. We should be bracing for it. On whatever level, whatever magnitude, I think it's coming. When all else fails, that's where they take you. And I despise fear-mongering. And please, I don't care if you hate me, never accuse me of any mongering of the fear. I don't like that garbage. I'm interested in being logical, rational, and informed, and looking before you leap. So, let me know what you think. I did a spurious live stream late last night until like 5 in the morning. It started at 2 a.m. and it went to 5 in the morning. People, why are you here so late? I was like, I told everybody I worked till like 4 in the morning every night. I just wanted to pop in and say hey to everybody. And I want to talk for a few hours too, but have a lovely day. Tell me what you think. I read every comment. Have a lovely week.